Are you confused and overwhelmed about your role in all the craziness that is being a dad? Are you struggling to create the life you hope for? Are you looking for other dads to share your struggles and your triumphs? Or do you just need help waking up in the morning? This is the Wake Up Dad Show.
Hey Dad, and welcome to another episode of the Wake Up Dad Show. I'm Scott Thatcher.
And I'm Dr. Ev, and we are your co-hosts of the Wake Up Dad Show.
In this show, we explore what we call the 5 P's of dadhood. Purpose, power, parenting, providing, and passion. I'm going to let Ev introduce today's topic.
Today's topic is discussing the statistics around men. And dads fall into this category, obviously. And these stats that we're going to be going over tonight
it's tonight over here,
Canadian.
so it does, and we don't know when people are going to be listening to this thing. So
exactly. So these stats are specific to Canadian men, most of them. So let's talk about the first one. This one we've touched on a previous show, and this has to do with body weight.
Well, before we get to that, these are Canadian stats. Remember now. So technically, I'm Canadian, but I'm sort of Australian. I've been here long enough. I got like half, a quarter, a third of an accent sort of thing going on. So I don't know if these stats really apply to me. And I was too lazy to find the Australian stats, to be perfectly honest. Ev randomly came up with some of these stats. I found them somewhere, and so we're going to talk about them. But I would say, based on what I know of Canada and Australia, generally stats from the past and stuff like that possibly the Australian stats would be a little bit worse than these Canadian stats. Because generally speaking, when I looked at comparisons between Canadian and Australian stats, Australia seems to be doing a little bit worse on the health scale, which is interesting. We might talk about that in some time in the show because, there's a lot of people who come over to Australia and realize how beautiful and sunny and things is here all the bloody time. So, Australia's got no excuse to be getting out and doing lots of amazing stuff. Whereas Canada, come on. Anyone who lives there knows that you're stuck inside for a few months out of the year, no matter where you live in Canada. So it'll be interesting to see what comes up in this show when I think we're going to do some Canadian, Australian comparisons and hopefully come up with some funny stuff for you guys too. So back to you, Ev. Let's start talking about some of these stats.
Okay, sounds good. And also, the U.S., their statistics are a little bit worse than Canadians. And a lot of our listeners are also from Europe and the U.K., so I think the UK is similar, and Europe might even have a little bit better stats. But nevertheless, this is going to be close. I think around the board here.
And isn't it amazing how Ev is in Canada, I'm in Australia. We're both Canadians, but definitely the most amount of downloads we get are from America. That's pretty cool. But I guess the country is 10 times bigger. Makes sense, really. I guess if you think about it.
Yes, definitely. So this first stat is really quite incredible, and actually, when you add them all up, it really makes for a really dismal picture. Actually, and our goal is to help men shift these stats. And the first one is nearly 7 out of 10 Canadian men are either obese or overweight. 7 out of 10.
So yeah, we did recently talk about this, didn't we? Like obese and overweight are slightly different things. Overweight is, over the weight, and obese is overweight. So it's bigger. Mm-hmm. So if you're obese, you're bigger or fatter than if you are just overweight. But really, yeah, both of them are pretty dismal. 7 out of 10. I wonder what the other 3 are. Because there's some really skinny dudes around too.
Yeah, well, out of 10, how many are actually an ideal body composition? So,
I'd say 1 to 2.
I'd be inclined to say it's not going to be the 3 that are remaining. Cause, there's certainly a lot, and I was included in this, of being underweight. So, I think finding ideal body weight is hard to come by. Out of 100, even if I saw 5, I'd be that would be that number would come to mind for me. 5 out of 100, maybe ideal body weight.
And then throw in there, just say what people think of their own body weight, right? No matter where they are along that scale, how many men, say out of 100, do you think are happy with the way that they are? That's a whole other story. Probably even less than that, because even the dudes that are the 5 out of 100 that are normal, probably most of them have some type of issue with their self-esteem around the way that they look anyway.
Yeah, true. So when it comes to the overweight or obese factor, the main reason that this matters is the health implications that can occur. We've talked about this before, that being overweight or obese is precursors to the major chronic diseases that are really taking the world by storm right now. Cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and it leads into some of the other stats that we're seeing around Canadian men. So this next one, 45% of Canadian men will develop cancer in their lifetime. So, there could be, definitely a direct correlation between the overweight stat and cancer, because they are correlated. But why, that's an incredible statistic. That's almost 1 out of 2.
Well, and then if you throw, like you said, the other tops in there, so there's always a fight. Sometimes I think of it this way. And in the red corner is the cancer, and in the blue corner is heart disease. And they're going to come out and they're going to fight each other. Oh, there's a left and there's a right. Oh, he's knocked him down. Cancer's knocked him down. Cancer's number 1 right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Between the two, it's always sort of in the middle, or so this stat here, and it'll always change. So, like, say 45 cancer, we've got probably close to that in heart disease. That's almost everybody. Right? And these diseases, for the most part, like besides like your 1 in 100, 1 in 200, didn't exist 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Just weren't even there. Some people will say that cancer, or to get all geeky on you, this genetic programmed cell death called apoptosis is a natural way to die. It's programmed cell death that at a certain age, humans are meant to live to be somewhere in the vicinity of 120 years old. So, at some point, the body just gives out. No matter how healthy it is, it just has a certain lifespan. The way I like to think about it is, I think, I can't remember who said it, but think about it this way. It's like, say you've got an original copy of something, like a book, and you photocopy it. And then if you take that photocopy, and you photocopy the photocopy. And if you keep doing that, it's somewhere down the line, what you photocopied you can't read anymore because of the dots and the smudging and the moving and the this and the that. And, eventually, say 100 or 200 copies later, each time it gets a little bit worse, to the point where it's unreadable. And that's natural life. That's the way it's supposed to happen. And at some point, you're going to not be able to read it anymore, and that's sort of like death for us. But the better we're able to make those photocopies, the less we smudge or move the page during the photocopy, or the less dust is on that piece of page as we move it on, the more photocopies we get. And so that's sort of, another way to think about life. The better that you eat, the more that you exercise, the better your body composition compared to what normal is, will give you more photocopies. And those more photocopies will give you a longer life that's better lived. Absolutely.
Gives you the best chance.
Yeah, you know what? Man, I could go out there and get hit by a bus today.
Yeah.
Then my stat for life is 41, which ain't great. That's a really bad lifespan. But I'm doing what I can within reason, Some people at my practice think that, I'm this perfect model of eating right and exercising perfectly and never say, and funny enough,
do you ever have them full days?
Oh man, there's so much so. But years ago, funny enough, like in practice, I wouldn't correct him. Maybe it was ego, maybe it was whatever, but I would sort of not say yes or no. I just wouldn't correct them. I was,
Right.
If they want to think that, that's kind of cool. But now I'm like, no, hold up, that's not right. I live sort of by the 80-20 rule, probably 90-10 for me. But I mean, most people are probably living around the 10-90.
Yeah.
So, the further we can get that first number up, and when I talk about it that way, the first number is good stuff, and the second number is the bad stuff. And another way, I'm full of them today. I'm full of something today. Another way to look at life is is like bank deposits, right? Like, so think of your life like a bank account, and you can put in deposits and then take out withdrawals. And so every time you do something healthy, it's like putting a deposit into your bank account. And every time you do something that's unhealthy, it's like taking out a withdrawal. And to see things grow and get better over time, you want to be putting in more deposits than taking out withdrawals. That's just sort of like the idea of a bank account. And the same thing with life, right? So every time you eat a healthy meal, it's like putting in a small deposit. Every time you exercise, it's like putting in a deposit. Me as a chiropractor, I talk about every time you get your spine checked, it's a deposit in your health account. And then the other pictures are like when you don't eat healthy, when you eat a crappy meal, that's taking a withdrawal. If you stay up all night, that's taking a withdrawal. If you don't exercise that day, that's a withdrawal. And so you've got this constant fluctuation in health. Most people get that idea of you're healthy or you're not healthy. And that's not really the way it works. It's a constant fluctuation. And you want to look at trends over time. If you're at a point where you're at a breaking point when it comes to your health, you're at a crisis situation, that means you could be overdrawn by 20 grand. That's not going to go to a positive 20 grand in a day or a week. It's going to take years of work. And that's what I think a lot of people don't realize is the length of time it may take for your amazing body, although it's incredible, to actually go through a full healing process. It may take years. It may never get back. What do you think of that one? Do you like your health account?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. You're talking my language. I'm
glad I'm talking somebody's language.
Yeah, when we talk about cancer, right? Like, it's significant withdrawals, and like things like eating well, definitely makes a huge impact on our immune system, which has an impact on our ability to fight cancer because we're making cancer all the time. Cancer cells happen all the time, and our body's always cleaning them up. It's when we weaken our immune system. So withdrawal would be like, drinking, for example, weakens our immune system. Or sugar, eating, refined sugar like chocolate bars, for example, or drinking pop. That's, weakens our immune system. So it's really, it's pretty black and white, actually. There are some cases where there's a gray area where it seems like somebody's doing everything right and they get cancer. But we're talking about, the general rule is what Scott's saying is totally accurate. Thinking of it as a deposit and withdrawal, I think is a great analogy.
Yeah, and this little idea or saying, my mother uses it all the time. She's just visiting here, and she used it so many times, and I just called her up on it. It's like everything in moderation. It's like, that's such a crappy saying. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, no, you want to have more deposits and withdrawals. Simple as that. If you have more deposits, you're going to start to get healthier. If you have more withdrawals, you're going to start to get sick. Whether or not you see it straight away. The whole idea of everything in moderation is like, well, I'm just going to eat this arsenic in moderation. It'll be fine. It's like, no, it won't. It will not.
I'm just gonna take heroin in moderation.
In moderation, everything's fine. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, no, not going to happen. It's a withdrawal. Simple as that. I think that might be an easier way for some people to think about it. Is look at how many deposits you're doing on a daily or weekly basis, because there might be some days where you're great and you do tons of deposits and no withdrawals. Typically think about a weekday versus a weekend, right? So if you're depositing all week long and you take a Saturday off and do a bunch of withdrawals on a Saturday, yeah, it's still going to be a withdrawal. You're still going to have a downslide, but you've done a whole bunch of deposits through the week. So you're going to be on the upside overall. And so think about it that way, guys. Mm-hmm. Maybe if you know, instead of thinking, oh my God, I've got to make these changes, whatever it is, you know, say you are in a health crisis, so you have been diagnosed with something significant. Really the only way your body's going to truly heal is by doing what the body needs. It needs to eat right, it needs to move, it needs to have a proper mindset, and it needs to have a clear connection. It's as simple as that. Those are the absolute bottom lines. If you can do that more consistently than not, you're going to go in the right direction. Now, the more you do it, the faster it's going to happen. Right? Some people want to create an account that has a massive, like you're in the black, massive, right? You're huge, like you got tons of reserves in there. And some dudes, most dudes probably, by the look of these stats, are living paycheck to paycheck. You know? They're in the black, they're in the red, they're in the black, they're in the red, or they're constantly in the red, just slowly getting worse.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Which leads us to our next one. So here's the next one. Men live on average 4 years less than women. That ain't cool.
No,
you know,
that's not cool.
I think most of us probably know that, and some of us may have even thought, I thought it was even more than that. Like the average lifespan for a man is 78, and for women it's 82, or whatever it is, because that always changes as well. Mm-hmm. But guys, like we're better at sports than women. Generally speaking, like if you team up like the best male athlete of any sport against the best female athlete of any sport, dude's gonna win. Like, why are they beating us so? 4 years? That's huge. Think about how long 4 years is. That's like, what is that, like 1,400 days? That's a lot of days.
It's a long time, you know. We can pack in 4 years. You can pack in, like, you know, you could pack in like 50 trips or more. You could pack in 80 trips, you know, in 4 years. You could have, those 4 years could be the best 4 years of your life, you know.
Absolutely.
You know, it's incredible, the difference in 4 years. So yeah, that's a significant statistic.
Let's step it up, man.
And absolutely, you know, and well, let's talk about why. You know, why is it so different? Like 4 years, why isn't it even? You know, are we genetically just not capable of living as long? Is that we're just programmed to die sooner? What do you think, Scott?
Well, I think, I mean, reality comes back. You can look at stats like we just talked about, cancer or heart disease or stroke or all the major killers, but you want to look what's behind that, like what is causing those things, because heart disease doesn't just come from eating fatty foods. Like, that's a myth. That's an absolute crazy, ridiculous myth. It actually comes more from eating sugar than fat. So I won't get into that in this episode, but you know, there's a lot of myths out there. I think what it comes down to is, generally speaking, which is the whole reason why we're doing this bloody podcast, is that men suck at communicating. And because we don't communicate properly, we hold stress in. And by holding stress in, that's what's killing us. Plain and simple, I think. And then you can look at it and break it down to, oh, well, maybe there's more. I just saw a stat I was at the airport today, and in the urinal.
That's how you get a guy's attention right there.
That's how we get it, you know. And the urinals in Australia, you should see some of them. I don't even know how to explain it. It's like a big horse trough. That it's like, you know how you got your individual urinals that you stand and you do your pee, but a lot of them in Australia, it's just this one huge one that could be like 20 feet long, and it actually comes into the floor a little bit, and you step up onto like a cage, and underneath the cage is like running water for your pee, like, and so you're sort of standing on top of this running toilet sort of urinal thing. It's really, really strange. Anyways,
What?
Yeah, I know. I don't even know how to explain it.
How does somebody come up with that and think that's a great idea? I don't maybe it is a great idea. It doesn't sound like a great idea.
Well, it doesn't seem all that. What's that word? Hygienic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your pee's mixing in with other people's pee and it's floating by? Like
yeah.
It's
oh yeah, totally. Yeah,
other
yeah,
people's
yeah.
pee's running by it? That's terrible. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then there seems to be, and you only realize, and the big one. Sometimes these type of urinals are at the beach, when there's no doubt you're hopping into a toilet, a bathroom. Here in Australia, we call it a toilet. Like, the room is a toilet. The room is not a bathroom. It's like if you raise your hand at school, you don't say, "Can I go to the bathroom?" You say, "Can I go to the toilet?" That's the way we do it here.
Okay.
How weird is that? Anyways, if you run into the toilet at the beach, you're probably not going to have any shoes on, right? You're at the beach.
Yeah.
But you got to go in and you got to step on this cage, and you know that cage is covered in pee. And these ones don't work right because they splash a lot. And the only way you know is when you do it with no shoes on and you're peeing, and you're getting like your pee splashing back on your feet. It's disgusting.
And it's not yours, and it's not just your pee.
It may not be
it's
your.
mixing with someone else's.
It may be somebody else's. Yep.
Your pee's landing on someone else's. It's bouncing up. And there you go. And that could be why we're living 4 years less than women, right there.
It's not hygienic, I tell you.
That is not happening in the women's washroom. I can tell you that for sure.
That is definitely
They're not all squatting down and peeing into the same trough.
That is a definite difference between men and women, especially in Australia.
Absolutely not.
Now, these are not Australian stats. We have to clarify that for the listeners out there. We don't know if this is the case in Australia. But anyways.
No, you guys could be dying way sooner than women over there just from this pee trough thing.
Way sooner. Anyway. So
think of all the bacteria infections.
Back to the reason. So I was in the urinal today, and the stat was more. Oh, here's another reason why. I'll get to it after the stat. More men die from prostate cancer than women do of breast cancer.
See, there
now,
it comes back to the
how much? Yeah. Well, here's another reason. How much do you hear about breast cancer? Like all the time, right? Prostate cancer, you barely ever hear about it. Like, this is the only time I heard about it, is on this stat. So, like, women are better communicating. They talk about it more. If men have prostate cancer, they're not willing to talk about it.
Well, they have massive runs here, to raise awareness around breast cancer, whereas I don't remember anything going on for prostate cancer.
That's what I mean.
At all.
If there's more men dying of prostate cancer than women of breast cancer, which, of course, if it was a stat in the urinal, it has to be true. Has to be. So,
absolutely true.
Yeah. It's like anything you see on television has to be true. If that's the case, then there should be more awareness around men's prostate cancer, as opposed to women's prostate cancer. No, just prostate cancer.
That's really interesting. So that is what I think, because you said, men are, that we're not good communicators typically, and hold things in, and that sort of thing. And I'm going to add, like, I think it has to do with men. They tend to not communicate specifically about what's going on with themselves in relation to how they're feeling, if things are ailing them. And actually going and speak. I think we did talk about this in a previous episode, and actually going and talking to somebody about it, because what does that say about you as a man?
Oh, you're a total wuss.
Oh, like, you don't got this?
Yeah.
What, there's a problem with you? Oh, you're vulnerable? You're not a rock?
Oh, we haven't even released that episode yet.
Yeah, we haven't released it.
So it's a previous episode that we have recorded but not released yet. So you got to wait for that one. Unless that one gets released before this one does.
Yes, good thinking.
Yeah. So wait and see. We don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I would say that's a big reason is that they just don't want to make a stink about something going on, or they're not doing the regular checks. Because let's be honest, if you're pre-diabetic and you get a blood test and you get caught pre-diabetic, well, you can actually take care of that pretty easily. But when you're full-blown diabetic and you're at the point where, because you haven't been taking care of it, and we just kept on going our merry way and not actually getting, a regular yearly checkup, and then all of a sudden, bam, we're on meds or taking insulin, that's a little harder to get off of. And like you said, you got to do a lot more deposits. You got to be very committed to yourself to completely get yourself off of medications or insulin. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's doable. So yeah, like that's just one example, Scott? So high blood pressure, for example, the silent killer, stress is related to high blood pressure, and, we can make adjustments. But if we don't know where we're at because we're not doing, regular checks, then, we might not be making the changes. And same with, even just the value of even getting a blood test and just checking to see where are things at, where are my liver's enzymes at, what's my blood pressure at? Not that that's coming up with a blood test, but knowing what your blood pressure is, knowing what your blood sugars are, knowing all those things like that can create a lot of clarity on where things are at in the body. Anyways, I'm going off, but really, this is coming back to, checking in, seeing where we're at, seeing what our bank account's at, and part of that comes, I think the first step, like you said, Scott, is communicating, and being like, yeah, I should probably call my doctor and actually make the phone call, communicate. I got to set up an appointment. It all comes down to communication and creating awareness around your health. So you are 100% right.
Wait a minute. That one again? It's all about that. How is that possible? But yeah, no, I in every way, yeah. I mean, again, like I was saying earlier, my patients used to think I was like this, perfect picture of what to do properly and eat right and exercise right and all that kind of stuff. It's like, just because we're saying this doesn't mean that we do it. Because I'm ridiculous at making appointments, I gotta say. Like, every now and again I do, and I'm definitely, I would say I'm gotta be better than the average, but I'm not great. I'm not great at it. I'll say that.
No, I'm not great at it either, and it's breaking the mold, because my dad, like, I don't think he ever got checked, and unless something ailed him, and it had to be taking him down big time, like pneumonia type thing, and that ended up like he died at 45. And he could have been a lot more diligent around. He just was getting consistently run down and sick, and constantly stuff happening with his respiratory system, and just not fully engaging in getting fully checked out. And there's a chance that that could have been the difference from him being alive today. So absolutely. So I'm breaking the mold on that. Like, I had 2 weeks ago, I got like full, like, it was like I was taking my car in for a full, lube oil filter and clean inside, outside, and doing the whole, like getting the whole thing tuned right up.
You got a lube?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I knew you'd play on that. I'm not at that age yet, but it's coming soon.
Oh, man, I can't wait.
Speaking of prostate, so yeah, so I didn't get that done, but
do you remember
if I was 40? I think it's 45. It starts happening.
Total sidebar.
There, right?
Do you remember in chiropractic school that we were given the option whether or not we wanted to learn internal coccyx adjustment? Which
Right.
essentially, so for people who don't know what we're talking about, this was in, me and Ev went to chiropractic school together, and there was a particular adjustment for the coccyx, which is right at the bottom below your sacrum in your spine, and it's right around where your bumhole is. And it's basically sort of like a prostate exam, except turn your finger 180 degrees, and boop, and adjust that coccyx. And we were given the option, whether or not we wanted to learn that. I don't think anyone did it. Do you? I don't know.
I do know people that did it.
Oh, do you?
I don't know any males that did it.
What a surprise!
Yeah. Yeah, I know a couple females that did it, but I think there was actually quite a few that did. I just don't know of any males that did it. But anyways,
that was a total sidebar,
we digressed completely.
Digress.
Out of track here,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get back to the stats.
So on average, you. On average, Canadian men work 6 hours more than women. Now, we don't know what. Oh, per week. Is that per week? Yeah, that makes sense, per week. Now, I don't know where the stats come from there, but like, you might think about it. Well, women stay at home with the kids more and things like that. As far as, in particular, when they're younger in that first 6 to 12 months of life. Like, I don't know if those stats are involved there, but I mean, I would think most dads out there, if you have a look between you and your partner, yeah, I mean, I'd work a lot more than 6 more hours per week than my wife, and yeah, I think that's a big one. But the other half of that is that we're only spending half as much time with the kids. So I mean, they obviously play in together, but if we're working 6 hours more, shouldn't we be just spending 6 hours less, not half the time?
Well, if the hours that the woman's spending is 12, then
that would work out perfectly.
It would work out. So, yeah, it's hard to know, but yeah, it's hard to know what's making what the difference there is. Yeah.
I don't know about that stat. Yeah, that one's a funny one. I think I don't think there's much to say there. I think we should have probably just left that stat out because we've sort of made sense of that stat. Let's move on. Let's move on to the next one.
Actually, no, I want to talk about it just briefly. All right. Yeah. I'm not ready to go on, but so we've got, first of all, Canadian men working 6 hours a week more than women. And it's, I think men are, they believe that they're made to work and to produce income and that sort of thing. And, is that extra 6 hours part of the reason why our health is so much worse and that, we're dying sooner and these sorts of things? I believe that, there's to be a balance. And, when I say balance, I mean like where you're working enough that you're feeling productive and, you're contributing in some way, and, that's adding to your life, your enjoyment of life. That would be the ideal scenario for, I believe, a working man, providing for your family, and that's it. However, if we're being pushed to work longer hours, and it's creating fatigue and, not taking care of ourselves, then that's a problem. So the 6 hours could be, could definitely be, part of this scenario. So I think it's in the self-assessment as to whether we're working too much to handle the taking care of ourselves part, which ends up, causing more morbidity and mortality. So that would be my consideration there. And then, talking about kids and spending our time with kids, I think it comes back to, do we want to be spending half as much time than our spouse with our kids? like in general, do we as dads want to be spending more time with our kids? And if the answer is yes, then I think that can be definitely a major challenge mentally and emotionally, which certainly doesn't help the health situation. So I just find it pretty amazing, actually, that it's half as much time. Because I don't think that dads love their kids half as much, or want to be like that they have half as much desire to be with them. I don't believe that. I believe for the most part, dads, especially when the kids are young, and between that like 0 and 12 range, and my kids aren't 12 yet, but like just wanting to spend as much time as they can. At least that's my experience with dads. Do you have any thoughts on that, Scott?
Well, I think it sort of leads in, I guess, to that last stat. Like you just talked about, where 60% of men feel tired most of the time. Like that's crap. Like I just can't even imagine doing that. And I guess I think back, and I was like that a few years ago, and then it was crap. Like it was absolute. Oh man, it was horrendous. And I look at where I'm at now compared to that, and yeah, it takes some time and effort and work. Just like we talked about, I put a lot more deposits into my health account, and my energy's to the roof at the moment. Like I really do feel. I mean, there's obviously certain days that aren't as good as others, but as a general rule, like, yeah, my energy's pretty good. Like, it blows people away. Some of the things that I do. So it's guys out there that are listening that are, your energy is low and these issues are going on. Make sure to just start slow. Like when the mind is ready, sometimes the body isn't, and start slow with your activity levels, because if not, you can injure yourself. But just keep going with it. And over a period of time, whether it be days, weeks, or months, maybe even years, depending on where you're at, it will make a massive difference. It will make a massive difference to your levels of health and the way that you feel and the way that you live your life. Because when you feel better, it's an upward spiral. You start making better decisions. You start doing more and more for a positive situation, and you start actually contributing to the world as opposed to being a burden to it.
Yeah. It's so much easier once we put that first deposit in with that healthy meal, and then we put in the next one, and consistently, nourishing our bodies better. That's going to help with the energy, and also help us feel resources that that are going to give us that feeling like we want to move and exercise, and then that is going to enhance our energy even more. It's amazing that exercise and actually the burning of energy actually has a huge improvement in our energy. So our, the net outcome of exercising is a lot more energy. So if you can break the cycle, and as Scott said, like you don't go like all in, into like, an advanced, CrossFit program and like get yourself crushed. It's you want to ease into it and so on, but still, like even easing in, you're making the deposit and you're enhancing. So, but really, like 60%. So that's 70% of men are either overweight or obese, and 60% are tired. And that last stat, Scott, you want to read that one?
I think I sort of did. 60% feel tired, 44% aren't even moderately active, which, will go back to part of the reason why I talk about it a lot in practice, where I talk about the idea of expenditure of energy and the idea that human beings are not like cars that use up gasoline, and when the gasoline is gone, the car doesn't go anymore. With human beings, it's the opposite effect, where generally speaking, the more energy that you use, your body creates more energy. It actually comes back to a Nobel Peace Prize winner, Roger Sperry, who found out his body movement, and particularly movement of your spine, creates energy for your brain to work correctly. And when your brain works better, it makes better choices. And that's a big, big reason why movement is so important for your overall health, considering not just your body composition, which is what most people work out for. Oh, I put on a few extra Christmas kilos, I better go out for my walk, but the science is very clear that movement and activity is much more for your brain than it is for your body. And the idea of it for weight loss is just an old concept, and that is not the reason why you move. People talk, there's those sayings floating around, abs are made in the kitchen, as far as getting the body fat percentage down, stuff like that. And to a certain degree, that's true, because even people who are overweight, if they're moving and exercising, even if they continue to be overweight, their markers for all related health stats will go up. The chances of having issues like heart disease and diabetes, etc., even if you're overweight and you're active, goes significantly down.
So I was thinking about some dad work.
Yes, we are. This is a bit of a longer episode, so let's do some homework and clue this one up.
So I was thinking, if you have some things that you need to take care of as far as your health is concerned, schedule it into your scheduler to make those calls. If you have people to call, your doctor, your chiropractor, whatever it is that you need to do, schedule it into your book, and that could also include, making some adjustments as far as your activity level, or making some adjustments in how you're nourishing your body. Maybe you hire some assistance with both those things. But I think the idea here is to give some thought as to where are the gaps for yourself, and then plan some action steps into your scheduler, because what we do not book into our schedule does not happen. So got to book it in, and take those actions. Any additions there, Scott?
The only one I'll add is, if you don't have a scheduler, get one. Because that's not the excuse that you can give yourself. Oh, I don't have one, so I don't have to put it in there, because everyone's got a smartphone these days. Well, not that's everyone, right. But most people.
Most people, yeah.
And just use that. That's what I use most of the time. But I've got 2 different scheduling books, written books, and my phone. So I'm ridiculous over the top with it. Maybe I need to simplify a little bit, but it does seem to work for the most part. Some way or another, it seems to work. When it's really important, it gets put in all 3. And so, figure out a way, whatever's going to work for you. And, I'm thinking, myself and Ev have talked about it, and I won't let the cat out of the hat in any way, but we're thinking about trying to get some things organized for you guys out there to help you with a lot of this homework, so that it's all in one place and all working well to get the best out of life.
Do you want to know more about the Wake Up Dad movement? Go to www.thewakeupdadshow.com to download any and all past issues of the show. Claim your free gift. Continue the conversation on the Facebook group Wake Up Dad. Share this podcast with other dads on iTunes or Google Play. Make sure to subscribe to the show and give us a rating so we can reach more dads. And dads, one last thing. Wake up!